So, welcome back to the group chat. I was just going to kind of open this one with a bit of a flashback from my own personal experiences. So, I can't even really remember the year. I just know I had been out of school for about 12 months, nearly 18 months. And at the time, I had just finished going on a date with someone at the time that I was seeing quite a lot when I was still in my teens. But yeah, we were still seeing each other for a few months, and it's a weird story just on the basis that it was just a racist incident out of the blue that again it was almost unavoidable. But I think obviously what we're going to talk on today I think kind of will add a little bit more context to that matter. But basically we finished watching a film in the Odeon in town, and we've come from Liverpool 1. We've walked all the way across to Queen Square where she was going to get the bus home, so I was just waiting with her to get the bus.
Such a gent.
Well, no, but you know what it was like back in them days. Like we didn't drive, you didn't have a license, and it was kind of like you'd meet in town, they'd meet you in town type of thing. You'd go to Nando's or you'd go and have some food. You'd go to the cinema for a few hours. You'd wait for them to get the bus. They go back to theirs.
You go in the rain.
You walk back to the bus stop and go home yourself. So it was one of them kind of vibes. And literally, we're at the very top end of Queen Square, and these two guys like clearly just like really being loud and just quite abrupt. You can just hear them in the distance, and they've walked over the road, they've come across the zebra crossings, they've started to walk down towards the Nando's in Queen Square. They're walking on that side of the bus stations, and it's just out of the corner of my eye I can see this guy's really agitated now. He's just had a confrontation with the police officer, and the police officer's been giving him shit or whatever it was. And for his anger at that particular moment, I don't know, I didn't see the police officers, but I imagine that the police officer was a woman or a man of colour, a black person, and he's turned round. Now, we're sat in this, everyone in, if you're from Liverpool, you'll know Queen Square, the bus stops are transparent.
Bubble bus stops.
Yeah, them bubble bus stops, you can see through them. There must have been about 2 other people sat, a distance away from us. There was another person, another man sat at the other end of it. And as he's walked past now, it's just went into slow motion, and out the corner of my eye, you can just see what he's about to say, and he just goes, "I hate," and time just stops for 3 seconds where I just look and think, I know what's coming out of his mouth next, but there's nothing I can do to stop it kind of thing. And he just says, "Niggers." And after that,
such hate.
he said it with so much hate, but after he said that look of everyone else in the bus stop visibly being not black, they've looked as if to say, well, I know he's not talking to me, so what does he think of that? And they've all just kind of done that little turn and looked to me. And at this point now I feel embarrassed because I'm like, he's saying this, and I've got, at the time, a girl that I'm seeing there, my pride comes into it, ego comes into play, and all these emotions just hit the top of the roof. So I've just jumped up now. Even in my mind, I know it wasn't even necessarily directed at me, but I felt a certain way. So as I've jumped up, I've turned around and ran at him and just got up to this guy's face and been like, "Who are you calling a nigger? Who are you calling a nigger?" Proper fuming his mate, saying, "Lad, I'm sorry, calm down." He's like, "I didn't mean it, it's the police officer, and why aren't you calling them a pig then? If it's a police officer, call them a pig, call them a rat, don't call them." And he's like, "Oh," I was like, "Who's a nigger?" I said, "Who's a nigger, lad?" He's went, "Not you, not you."
In that situation, there's no right or wrong answer for that kid.
And it was so peak, but as soon as he said that, I've kind of looked at him, and between the eyes you can look at certain people and you can tell straight away, alright, there's clearly some sort of difficulty with you in your life, you're not 100% there. And in that moment I thought, if I lift my hands now and just punch you, I feel like I deserve to punch you and I am an innocent victim and all this, but the second I punch you and it turns into an altercation, and then potentially police turn up and see it, they're going to see someone that's quite clearly got some sort of learning difficulty, just being beaten up or attacked by some young black lad. I'm never going to look like the victim in that situation. So I've literally just been shouting at him for 30 seconds, and to the point where this gentleman has turned round and been like, "You're not a nigger, lad, I'm sorry, you're not a nigger." And I mean, I just had to walk away and think, I suppose that was the best I was getting out of that situation, because what really more could have I expected? I just think it was quite funny, it was quite telling, but these are the kind of experiences that I myself have experienced growing up. Can imagine, man like Marcel, you've experienced some of your own, and this week we're fortunate enough to be joined with Aron Julius, and I can imagine, Aron, you've probably grew up in the city and experienced some of these type of situations yourself.
So for a sec then I thought you were going to on the spot me and be like, so go and hit me with one, and I'm sat there thinking like there's many, but like on the spot like that,
it's deep in it, like
the fact that there's many,
and I think it is a sign of the times, because I say that story because I must have been about 17 or 18 at that time, and people will always like, is Liverpool still a racist city? Is Liverpool...
I'm going to jump in there because you had a mate of mine who, without even like detailing, works in town, goes to town to work on his job, and I had exactly that last week.
So,
exactly that last week. He's working, he's bothered, he's literally doing his job in town, and he works on the doors.
Yeah.
And he's had a lad in his face, pretty much same situation, he's been kicked out. And it's not actually been anything to do with my mate per se. There was an incident inside, and he's in his face, fucking nigger. So, as recently as last week, it goes on in exactly the same format.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think even when it does, there has still been a significant change in the mood, because I feel like what we are going to discuss today, that there was a real culture, and it was very easy to just be casually racist at that time. And I feel like, you know, the topic we will discuss will kind of highlight, and I feel like there has been a powerful piece of documentation really of racial events in a city like Liverpool over the last week. So it is important that we do speak on it. But obviously I just want to pick up and first introduce our guest for the week, Aron Julius. How you doing, my man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Well, thank you for coming down and sitting with us.
Of course.
Give you a little insight into who Aron is. Aron is a very talented young actor in Liverpool, and fortunately enough, knew him since he was quite a young man through him going to same school. But he is, isn't he? He's younger than us, but he's still of that generation where pretty much...
We went to school together.
Yeah, we pretty much went to the same sort of school. We grew up in the same sort of area, and you've continued that journey of being, you know, some will say a thespian, but most man will just say you're an actor, do you know what I mean? And just keep it real with you. From my perspective, I've really been looking forward to conversations like this that we're about to have, because when we first started doing the pod, it was always that kind of, I wanted to hold a mirror up to Liverpool to show this is what Marcel and his journey has been, and this is what he's done to be such an independent figurehead and, you know, role model for his community, his family, and now putting on for Liverpool, which is what we want. And likewise, there was a journey that I wanted to kind of show myself and tell my story as well. But it wasn't hard to tell my story, it's just, I want to make sure that when we tell this type of story, there's a good context around it and gives people a good insight. So bringing a fellow actor on, I think will help when we have this kind of conversation. So you've been down in drama school. Yeah. How was that whole experience? Give us a bit of an insight into the drama school experience.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it really is amazing. It allows you to find out. Like I learnt a lot about myself.
Okay.
I learnt a lot about the craft, obviously, but the craft and you are, you know, one and the same, as you know. Do you know what I mean? So like you start almost like recalling past experiences, you know, that you can feed off, and not in a kind of indulgent way, but in a way that empowers you. Do you know what I mean? Like, funnily enough, I've left feeling more confident in myself as a black man, as a Scouser, and as an actor.
Wow.
Because all those, you know, it's just a constant interrogation of the self, and I think, you know, it creates more empathy for people who don't look like you. It creates empathy for people who have different stories, and that's the kind of environment it breeds for those 3 years. Well, it was for me.
For those 3 years. And just to let everyone know, what drama school did you go to?
I went to RADA.
Okay, so anyone that doesn't know, that's levels. Do you know what I mean? For anyone that doesn't know,
trying to say that with a straight answer, I went to RADA.
I'd be so humble. That seriously levels though, because it's like, it's hard to really equate sometimes for people, like how seriously talented actors are when you're unquote unquote not in Hollywood or quote unquote not in EastEnders or in Top Boy as a black actor. It's hard for people to grasp the fact that, wait, these kids have got some serious talent and ability. And I think part of that, which is where we're going to touch on now, is the fact that the opportunity for black Scouse storytelling is very limited in top brass media. I think this week, hopefully by the time this is out, people have had the opportunity to tune into BBC One on earlier this week and watch Anthony.
I feel like that's a dig. Take that personally, you know.
No, I don't take it personally, because I know at some point you will get a chance to watch it, and you know, you'll be able to give us your opinion on it at a later date potentially. But I did think it was important that we discussed it, because that was a story about a black Scouse lad. And do you know what? Face value, it is an important watch. I feel like whether you're in Liverpool or out of Liverpool, I think it is something that you do need to give time to and kind of deep a little bit of how a situation like that was allowed to happen, because there is the truth to Anthony's story definitely within the production. Aaron, watching it, first thoughts, bro. Honestly, what was your first thoughts when you kind of?
I mean, what I'd say, like, straight off the bat is like I'm just gonna repeat what you said. Like, people should watch it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Regardless of what I'm saying, like, people should watch it. It's an important watch, and it brings light not only to like the black northern experience, but to, you know, racist experiences. It deals with loss. It deals with that family vibe.
Yeah.
From a black Scouse acting point of view, I was disappointed.
Okay.
I was disappointed. I enjoyed the last half an hour.
Yeah.
With like the lead up to his death.
Yeah.
And the events after his death, because it really felt connected to reality, that last half an hour. The first bit felt really disjointed.
Yeah. It did.
For loads of reasons, like the accents, the Scouse accents that were being put on, the writing. You know, Jimmy McGovern's a famed Liverpool writer, and I actually felt like that writing was a little bit
weak.
Yeah, weak.
Yeah.
Weak.
And do you know what? And I think it was prevalent in the interview that he did. I think it was for the BBC News the other day or something. And he sat there and he's being very honest with G Walker and in his reasoning for. He felt nervous about delivering a script to her, because how does he, as in his own words, a middle-aged white man, tell the story of a young black lad? How do I get that lens and that vision? And for me, that is where I draw. And if I just take it away from the Anthony Walker production for a moment, that's where I draw with the whole. We was talking just off camera about the creative process of being an actor.
Yeah.
I always used to love the creative process of working on plays or theatre, because you can turn up for an audition, and me and our Paul behind camera, we've done it before, where we've turned up for an audition and you'll spend a day, getting, improvising or doing a workshop, and then you'll get the script towards the back end of the day and they'll want to see how you can deliver certain lines, and they'll give you a few opportunities to switch up and try it in different ways.
Yeah.
And if you're able to then get the role, there is that whole, 4 or 5 weeks before you actually go on stage. It's a whole rehearsal process.
Yeah, you get the chance to really massage the character out and like challenge yourself, challenge who you think the character is, and then allow the text to almost like completely dismiss who you thought the character was.
Yeah.
And by the time you're on stage, you've got like this like amalgamation of who you thought the character was, who the character actually is, and then the feed from the audience, which gives you like an energy.
And unless you put yourself on stage, you'll never get that buzz. You know what I mean? Of everything you just explained. But I get it 100%. And you've been there when you've seen me perform back in the day. You've seen the transformation of looking on stage and thinking, I know that's Errol,
but that ain't Errol.
Yeah. And it is quite a transformation, and it is a powerful thing. Where when you then bring it back to a TV production, and what we was talking about, when they're being wrapped up as these products that are either, a 90-minute special, or they're kind of in the format of a Hollyoaks / a Holby City or a Casualty, there is that reading process of, you might go through a few auditions and you'll read a few times for the part. You might start reading with, if it's for a family, you might start reading with the people that potentially are going to make up the family. But thereafter, it's turn up on Monday, here's the script, and continue reading in the same way you read through the auditions. We see you as the character. And that's always been part of the difficult thing that I particularly struggled with, making that transition from being a theatre actor to trying to be an on-screen actor. And I think that was one of the things that I was disappointed about with the Anthony Walker production, because I think I looked at it, when you're probably too close up to something to really see the true beauty of it. I probably felt, even though I didn't take any physical part in the Anthony Walker production, I had still had conversations in the background before it was aired, and conversations with people that were in with making it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I kind of reached out to them and said, look, I know you're going to be putting on this production. It's, you know, it's a really strong story, or like the actual story itself, the true story is a really powerful one. It speaks to a lot of black people in our city, and I would love to help in any way, in any capacity. And it was a really genuine offering of that, because I did, you know, want to take some sort of part in it, to be like, you know, this is our storytelling process. I even auditioned for the role of Anthony. I know I don't look anything like Anthony.
No, but still.
But I auditioned at the time. I did the self-tape for it. And then it was only after, how was it? It was about 4 weeks later, my agent at the time rang me and been like, yeah, no, are you still interested in working on the Anthony Walker thing? I said, well, yeah, just what is it? What is it that they need me to do? And she was like, well, they've cast the lad now, the main lad who's going to play Anthony. I had already figured that out. I was like, all right, calm. But he doesn't drive, and there's a scene in the thing where he's driving, so do you want to come in and play his body double?
Wow.
So now I'm jarred, because again, I think it's a bit mad, because, right, vouch for me in this respect, actors are still very egotistical people.
Yeah. We all have, you know what I mean, we all have a level of ego. It's how much that ego drives you and how much you can control it. But like, yeah. And that's also like, you know, just quickly, it's not like you know, I want all the parts, this is my part and it belongs to me. It's more like you know, it's not that we feel like we deserve to be a part of that, or we deserve to be in it. It's more like we are a very underrepresented group of people, black northerners, but more specifically black Scousers.
Yeah.
So when you have the first black story, you know what I mean, about a black Scouser, when the first story comes up and there's barely any black Scousers even being asked to read, do you know what I mean, but there's barely any black Scousers in it, it's almost like a rejection, do you know what I mean? It's a rejection of who you are, of who we are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. And I just felt at that point in time, it felt like a kick in the teeth, because I have been in a similar situation about 18 months previous, and it was a Hollyoaks experience at the time. Hollyoaks traditionally don't audition me for many of their roles. A lot of their roles, again, when they cast for black characters, even though it is filmed and located in the Northwest, those characters come from outside the Northwest sometimes.
I think that with a lot of the characters.
Regardless of
regardless
of colour, that is pretty much the makeup of Hollyoaks, which is another issue in itself. But I know Hollyoaks at this moment in time have had internal discussions and back and forths, because it's become very much on the face. Everyone knows it now. It's not something that they can kind of brush under the rug anymore. But just in that, they basically had an influx of black male characters, and their makeup and hair design team were struggling with continuity. Now, anyone that doesn't film, continuity in a nutshell is basically, you could film Monday to Friday, and if your hair is starting to grow out of its fade, they are going to need to make sure that the same scene that you was filming on the Monday, if you've still got parts of that scene to film the Friday, you look the same as the Monday, which isn't always easy. And obviously with afro hair, you will start to see the difference in your fades and stuff. They basically had a day where they was getting their hair and makeup team to do haircuts for black people, because that's what they would then do for their cast members. They then chose to use black Scousers because locality-wise, yous are on our doorstep, yous have got hair, and yous are black. So we need yous. And even at that point, that was a kick in the teeth, but it was like, all right, I'm not going to begrudge them, you know, networking and all them kind of things. So you rock up, you get a free haircut, you get paid for it. It was an experience, but it just felt like that all over again. And for me, that was the missed opportunity. I don't think there was a creative, because Jimmy McGovern says it himself, like, how do I write that story for a black lad? My answer to that quite simply would have been, pick 50 black lads out of Liverpool and sit down with them all and start to develop a character that represents Anthony.
It's true, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Delegate the power. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to, everything doesn't belong to you. Do you know what I mean? So he didn't have to, he could have been a part of the process of writing that, but passed it on to someone else who, you know, like Denzel says it right, it's about culture, not colour. Do you know what I mean? You know, like I know Gaia, for instance, she, you know, is she from Brixton? Yeah, she's from Brixton. I could write a piece about Brixton and it'd probably be all right. She could write a bit about Toxteth and it'd probably be all right. But I wouldn't know all the nuances about Toxteth life, about Brixton life. Do you know what I mean? And she wouldn't know all the nuances about Toxteth life, as in like the smells, the taste, the little the offhand banter,
things that make it what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's about culture, and I think that's what one of the things I found was missing from Anthony was like, it just felt like, for instance, me and my mum laughed at one bit when he went for the interview to be a lawyer, and got it. And instantly, me and my mum were like, "That's not happening." You know what I mean? Like, in Liverpool, a lawyer, I'm black. No, that's not happening. So already, it's like, it just felt like it was through, and I say this without any judgment, the white lens. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can go for that job and get it because he's a nice lad. Doesn't happen like that, especially in the city.
And I think that was it. It was the Anthony's a nice lad, is a nice lad, is a nice lad, is great. But I think there was a lot more to Anthony as well. I imagine there was more to just being a nice lad and being that kind of, you said it before, you're all right, you. It almost felt as if he was making him that you're all right, you type of lad, as opposed to the character and all the depth that he probably did have in his life, in his 18 years. And I think, we were speaking off camera and I mentioned it. It's exactly the same sort of example you just give there. When you look at the Stephen Lawrence situation or story, if that was being retold or recreated, if they turned around and cast externally outside of London and said, Errol, you're going to play Stephen Lawrence, it turns up on the screen. People from outside London might look at it and think, well, that was all right. He put on quite a good London accent or whatever, what have you.
Yeah.
But lads in London would be there saying to you, what's going on there? Knowing full well he's not from London.
Yeah.
There's God knows how many talented black lads that could have been Stephen. And I think that was the opportunity that was slightly missed. It was the opportunity to tell any of us, you could have been Anthony. I could have been Stephen Lawrence. You could have been Anthony Walker. Or Paul could have been. It's that kind of thing. We all could have been them people.
Yeah.
The reality of it was just really unfortunate that it was Anthony that was targeted that night.
Yeah.
But his character and his makeup was unique because he was Scouse. He had Scouse blood running through his veins. He had that upbringing of, again, being a black lad in a predominantly white area. How can you portray that?
Yeah.
If you've never been a black lad that's grew up in a predominantly white area, it is very difficult to convey that.
And I understand, like, there's the argument that, actors shouldn't be confined to just who they are. So, like, for instance, there would be loads of people who probably hear that and go, like, yeah, but you're actors, we can play anything. But, like, there are certain specific stories. It's a bit like what I said before, just because you're an actor, every part doesn't belong to you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There are certain things that you can gracefully just be like, this isn't for me. Not because I don't think I can fulfill it, but because it's just not for me. Do you know what I mean? And I think like we are all Anthony Walker because we've all gone through those almost daily, weekly, yearly, being chased, egged, spat at, like fights, racial abuse. And I think, but Londoners don't get that. Do you know what I mean? And it was Londoners who were casting it. Do you know what I mean? It was Londoners who were at the head of the producing table alongside, the Liverpool people.
But then to flip it on, I say flip it, to kind of draw a comparison really is another story that was told in Liverpool of Rhys Jones's, tragic events, and the way that was portrayed on ITV. I know that was a 4-part drama and such, but again, this is, the two lads that play the characters of the murderers of Anthony Walker in this programme. Fortunately enough, I grew up with both of them. They are great actors. They are fantastic actors. Josh and James, big yourselves up, because I thought it was it would be very difficult to feel proud playing those parts. I feel as if you are that Scouser because it doesn't matter who you are, you probably feel a level of shame that those lads come from your city and they don't represent who you are in any way, shape or form. But those two lads look nothing like the people who committed the murders. Yeah. But in reality, they are both actually white Scouse lads that were cast to play white Scouse lads. Yeah. So the model does work. They've just chose not to explore that avenue, and not just with Anthony. So true. Not just with Anthony as the main character, but with the makeup of his family. Yeah, yeah. And that's where I felt the most disappointment, because I can get G Walker's got to look at someone and think they do look like my son. That gives me that goosebumps, and I get that and I respect that. But the makeup of his family could have been tastefully done to paint a picture of black creatives in Liverpool as well to show that kind of harmony. And I think it is telling that, you know, there are those opportunities. Again, little boy Blue, James Johnson, he was in that brief part, but he got an opportunity to still be part of that Liverpool telling of that story, and he's a Scouse actor. He was still a part of this Anthony Walker production as well as a Scouse actor, so he was able to filter them in, but it wasn't as a part of the integral storytelling part. So for me, that was just... and
you could tell, that the white people in it were Scouse. Do you know what I mean? Instantly. It was like my mind just stopped thinking about accent the minute they started talking, which almost highlighted even more that the Walker family weren't. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like I started to look at the family and feel like you're not who you know. It just felt so disjointed. And then you know when the attackers, do you know what I mean, were playing, it was just like I was then fully engrossed. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm there's a level of reality to it. I believe it.
There's the integrity in it.
It's the integrity.
It is that integrity to the body of work. But you know, regardless of our take on it, and I have to express that I did genuinely look at it with two lenses. The first lens was me, that aspiring actor, and seeing him almost a missed opportunity, and then I had to see it from the pure consumer side of things. Of this is fantastic that this story is actually being told, and it's 15 years since, you know, the events have happened, but it is still so prevalent in today. As you've just said, your example was of 2-3 weeks ago. I know I gave you an example of my growing up, so that's up nearly 10 years ago, but these things haven't just disappeared or gone away overnight, and it's even more...
These are the ones that we hear of as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the other week that done the rounds, someone had filmed, the whole incident was filmed.
Yeah. So
that's kind of why it got a little bit of coverage. These things go on every day and people aren't always quick to...
But that leads me to my next point, not necessarily a big talking point or a topic, because I don't think they deserve too much airtime. Apparently one of the lads is due for parole in October, or he's got the opportunity to be heard for parole. What do you think on that?
I mean, I don't know enough about... I don't know enough about the way the system works in that sense. Like, who am I to say like that? You know, he should be in prison forever because he's taken a life. Do you know what I mean? I really, it's hard to comment on that. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's fair. I just think my
at this point, how long has he served?
It would have been like 15 years. I think he was a... Go on.
There's people that comparatively have done what we would generally call a lesser crime.
Yeah.
That get a sentence and have to serve the full sentence.
Yeah, okay.
So, no matter how you look at it, I don't feel like it should even be up for discussion. If you're given it 15 years, it's not a life sentence.
No. Especially when I think he was quite young when he first did it, so they'll be coming out in their 30s potentially and
still have a life to live.
Yeah, they've still got a lot of time to live. I think, you know, one of the things that was mentioned was the fact that it should have been 16 years, but it could have been shortened to 14 because he's done charity work since being inside of prison. You know, if there is genuine reform there, then I think that's always a good thing on a personal level. I think
how often is there
genuine reform though? So
being locked up so long, it's easy to put a brave face on and be like, I'm a change, but you know, you're dying to get that outside world.
Yeah.
Anyone can play that part just for an opportunity of what you would see as freedom.
I think it'd be quite scary though if you imagine, just, you know, kind of spitballing there and going off topic, but imagine going into jail at 16, 17. This is pre-Facebook, pre-Instagram, pre all of these things, and never really experiencing it, and then just being thrust back out into the world and seeing it all. Like, I feel like that would be a madness as well. Like, the world you left and the world you then rejoin is completely different, and there'll be a lot of catch up to be made. But my thing is, I think, you know, just before we wrap up on that particular subject, definitely give it a watch. You know, check out the Anthony Walker Foundation as well, I think.
I'll be sure to do so. I will get to it.
This is for everyone else, not just for ourselves' benefit. But no, seriously, in all fairness, check out the Anthony Walker Foundation. If there is any sort of donations that you could give, that's definitely a good foundation to look at that are fighting racial injustices. I think the Walker family, they do a lot for Liverpool and the black community. So I don't want to take anything away from them in that respect.
Yeah, it's not about them.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a bit of honest critique, given the fact that, you know, this is Liverpool. We are Liverpool, and you know, when our stories are being told, I think it's just a message for everyone. It is only fair that people get the opportunity to play those parts that come from here and make up the DNA of Liverpool. So just obviously trying to spin things a little bit into a more positive move forward. What brought you back? Obviously, it was more of a lockdown situation, wasn't it? Apparently? So, what was you up to before lockdown? And how was your year pan?
Yeah, no, I just finished filming a film called Death on the Nile, which is like an Agatha Christie film with Kenneth Branagh. It was amazing, like such an amazing experience. Finished that in December.
Yeah.
And then I'd just been auditioning, you know, I mean, different parts of London. And
how did you get with your agent?
I got with my first agent when I was in Our Day Out at the Royal Court in Liverpool.
So you was telling us before that was your first ever professional.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that was mad. Yeah.
Go on, tell what like that first ever job like? Because I could
scary, scary because you're in the room with young people who have been doing it longer than you. I was still in school when I was doing it, so like. You know, it's almost like you're thrusted into the room with people who it's their bread and butter. And I'm kind of standing there thinking like, you know, can someone tell me where to stand? Or can someone, because I'm coming from GCSE drama, it's like, stand there, do that. It's like, okay, can someone tell me how to say this? And it's like, you know, there was a fear, but it was a team. It was like a little family, so it's almost like we were all pushing ourselves. And by week 4 or 5 of rehearsals, I was in the flow of okay, this is how we're going to operate. But yeah, it is mad. So
from that now, obviously that's your first ever professional sort of moment in your first steps into your career. The transition to being on screen, how have you found that then over the years? Is that something that you had to kind of work on? Is that something that you feel has come quite naturally?
Yeah, definitely didn't come natural. The want to like be on screen and play characters comes naturally to me, but like the technical aspect of being in front of the camera is, you have to be taught that. That's what I've realized. Like, you can pick it up and you can learn it on the job, but speaking really frankly, from a black point of view, you don't have that luxury because there's not many jobs.
Okay.
So you've kind of got to go in and smash it straight away. Do you know what I mean? Because already there's lack of opportunity, and then when you're talking about being northern, there's even less, and then Liverpool, there's even less. So there's a lot.
It's a reflection of like the real world outside of acting, that isn't it?
Yeah.
As far as jobs go.
Yeah, God.
Yeah, I can. It definitely is, and I think it's hard because I don't want to be just. There's so many, but this is why I feel like the important thing is now ownership and taking that step for yourself and being like, well, how do I put myself on? And because I was when I was younger, I was of a very what's the right word to say? It was conventional. It was probably a very conventional pathway to seeing this is how I want my acting to go. This is how the kind of trajectory I want to do. I want to do loads of theatre and kind of the salt of the earth kind of acting stuff and where, but then I want to break into film, I want to do TV and that kind of stuff. And when you do that, you're on a prescribed sort of, especially when you're looking for film and TV, you're on a prescribed route. This is how things are done. This is how the setup is.
Yeah.
You come to set, you'll get a call time of 5, 6 in the morning. You'll sit around and make up. And then when you're filming, a lot of the time you're sitting around waiting for someone to say we're ready for this particular shot. Say these type of things, and you don't really have a lot of creative freedom to express yourself, and that's not your job. In all fairness, it's not your job to express yourself when you're playing a role. But your natural instinct is to want to express yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, you've almost got to like it's what you're saying about ownership. You've almost got to like independently go like, this is my work that I need to do. No one can give me this. Yeah. I've got to turn up, and the minute they say 3, 2, 1 action, I've just got to deliver. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So what work can I do independently in the hotel in Leeds or at home, do you know what I mean, while I'm filming in Liverpool, or if you're abroad, what can I do to give myself that creative stimulus?
Yes.
So that when the camera is in front of me, all they see is the character, and I'm not having to ramp myself up, because like with theatre, you can sit behind the stage, you can hear the audience. So already your heart's starting to go boom, 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 boom. And you're thinking of the lines. So already it's like there's a ramping up. Yeah. Whereas you could go in filming from, eating hobnobs. You
go cold.
in your trailer with a cup of tea. You walk to the set and they're like, right, ready. And it's like, if you haven't got yourself to that position where you are the character, then
it's just going to fall flat.
Yeah.
It is mad, and that's why I feel like at this point now it was, how do I get to a certain age, how do I get creative again? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been out of acting for so long, how do I get an opportunity to be creative and still make a stake in in telling stories more than anything else? How can I still continue that storytelling thing? And because I was so conventional, I think I'm quite stubborn in the sense that I didn't then want to become a caricature and turn to where a lot of people have been able to make a name for themselves in the social media age by simply putting their mobile phone in front of them and reacting to situations or reviewing certain things or just caricaturing themselves and becoming little skits. And that's really creative.
Yeah.
I'm just not that guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's it is, and I don't hate on any of those people that can do that kind of shit as well. It's just that, like, you know, when you kind of got a certain, you know how it needs to look. It's like, it'd be the same with musicians, you know what I mean? If you're an MC or anything like that, and someone gives you a beat and it's not the tempo that you're used to spitting over, you're gonna be like, I could do it, but it's not me. Do you know what I mean? So it is literally, when you have that vision of how you want your shit and your career to unfold and look, it comes you get very pigeonholed and you get tunnel vision. And that was just one of my personal experiences. I felt it was more, if I would have kind of just had a nonchalant, no fucks given, I just want to be in front of any screen at any time, things might have been different, but at what cost ultimately?
That's true, yeah.
Do you think, because I've always wondered this, the whole child acting thing, as a child actor, do you think, had you have been a child actor, that would have potentially, you know, hit critical, Harry Potter-esque?
Okay, yeah.
So if you're a child actor and you end up being, like, you know, one of the Harry Potter guys, do you think that would have been to an advantage if you were at a young age, or do you think that would have been to potentially at the detriment of everything that come? Because that was always something that kind of jarred at me, because I did acting from so young. I was like, it could happen at any minute. So if it did, how would I handle being famous at 15, 16? And now at 28 years of age, I look back and think, I would have never been ready.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it can help and it can hinder. Do you know what I mean? Like, on one side, you're getting your face everywhere. Especially if you're on the Harry Potter level, you're getting your face everywhere.
Global. You know what I mean?
You know, an opportunity will grow from that. You know what I mean? That the actors who played Harry Potter and Hermione Granger have done really well. I'm leaving Ron out of that because I haven't seen him in much. But, like, I've literally just seen Harry Potter as well, so that's mad. But on the other side, whenever Daniel Radcliffe, that's his name, whenever he plays anything, all I'm seeing is Harry Potter.
You had to think of his actual name then.
Yeah, exactly, Harry Potter's like boom, but I was like, Daniel Radcliffe?
So, you know, looking at the whole acting thing from a drama school perspective and making that transition now from drama school and the audition side of things, what's the London culture like? Because I was always very hesitant to, you know, David Harewood, who is in Homeland, he's come out recently and basically said similar sort of things as, you know, what we're talking about, the lack of opportunities for black creatives within the industry. I think London has a clear infrastructure because they churn out a lot of programmes with a lot of black characters and black stories. Liverpool doesn't necessarily have that infrastructure, but his message is still very poignant in the fact that he says there's still that lack. How have you found that transition in the London circuit? What's it been like for you?
It's a mixture of things, you know what I mean? It's been like exciting, overwhelming, daunting, and I suppose in the sense that the London circuit of like actors know each other very well because they've grown up with each other in different, like, Brit school and stuff like that. So it's almost like I can feel like I've almost got imposter syndrome, you know what I mean, where I'm in the room feeling like these people know I'm not from London. Do you know what I mean? I'm in the audition room and everyone's sat there going, "Oh, you're right, man. So, like, blah, blah." And I'm like, "All right, lad." And they're like, "Who's that?" Do you know what I mean? And you can feel it, and I suppose you've got to not let that, you know what I mean, stifle you or suppress you or make you feel like you're not supposed to be there.
Okay. Because that was always my thing when I used to contemplate going to London for auditions or contemplate. I've always had family in London, so it would have never been a situation where I'm just going to up and move to London. It would have been go and stay with family for a couple of days while I go through auditions or I'm on filming or whatever it might have been. And I always used to think to myself, like, I couldn't just move to London because unless I had a job to move down there for and do it, I couldn't just go from the audition point because in my mind I try to put on a casting director's head and I'm like, right, again, the type of stories or the type of parts that I am going to be cast for if I am in and around London is going to be, especially at the age I was at the time, coming from, you know, leaving sixth form at 18, 19 or whatever and then being acting till 23, 24, I know I'm in a catchment age of I can still play a teenager later school, but I could start playing a young man, professional, doing whatever. Chances are the opportunities are going to be very roadman-esque. They're going to be kind of, you know, street type characters. I'm thinking, if it was me though, against the Stephen Lawrence thing, you can cast me. I can do a London accent. I can act like a rude boy, but you would be more fitted, as you say, not every role is for me, so you would be more fitted and better served casting someone that can give you that authenticity from London as well. So I always, in my mind, when I was that age, always thought America would be the jumping the opportunity to go, as opposed to, do you get that when people look at you and you open your mouth, do you think straight away you're probably a London boy until
even when I started drama school, like, I remember loads of people said to me, we thought you were from London before I opened my mouth. Do you know what I mean? And you can almost see it. I'm like, oh, you're right, and they're like,
the last
you're looking at me like, because here people think, when I was younger, people used to think I was from London because I don't have a strong Scouse accent. But the minute I'm there, they're almost like, oh, Liverpool. Should I, you know, you're gonna rob my trainers? Do you know what I mean? Get all that crap. Do you know what I mean? All that stupid shit. I'm like, not them. You know what I mean?
But has that been a thing that you've kind of just gotten used to then, more than anything else? Just that kind of, you just don't expect me to be here, I'm going to be here and I'm going to show you what I can do.
Yeah, like now I see it as a massive advantage, you know what I mean, in terms of not a cockiness, but there's a confidence that comes with being like, we're in an age where more diverse stories are being welcomed, whether they're being written or not is a different story, but they're at least being welcomed and encouraged. So, you know, being in a group of people that are underrepresented and putting your face out there is almost a really good thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't fall into the roadman kind, you know what I mean? That huge circuit of young men.
Yeah, I feel like that has been over pushed as well. From that narrative, so I feel like the stories need to expand from that 100%.
Because black people are so much more than just, you know, guns and drugs. Do you know what I mean? That's there, of course it is, like it is in every community. But like, we are everything. And if you show the country, I'm talking specifically the UK, if you show the country one lens of what being black is in Britain, that's all they're going to believe. It's all about perspective and perception. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that people in the UK don't see a lot of black Scousers or a lot of black Northerners makes the South feel like there are none. You know what I mean? So if those stories aren't put out and told, we almost are invisible.
100%. And I feel like I've definitely felt invisible in that sense, or the voiceless almost, to kind of say, well, we're here, what do we have to do to get that? But I feel like Londoners have put themselves, or the black community with London have put themselves in a unique position, really, where they're almost the gatekeepers for what is certified for culture. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So... And that can go across the board now. This isn't necessarily specific to, you know, just acting. I feel like it is
everything.
The talent pool.
Style.
Yes, style.
Hairstyles.
Culture. You know, the
music.
Music. You know, anything that's creative or anything that, you know, would be black.
That's not exclusive to London, though.
What do you mean?
As in, us being looked to as like the pioneers of style and creativity. I feel like that's a worldwide thing.
What's like...
Black people in the media.
Yeah, black people in the media, definitely. But what I'm saying is the London cohort or that London community, they've almost become the gatekeepers to what's then certified. So if you're not getting bumped or respected from another black creative in London, do you have any weight, or do you have any pull, or do you have any pulling power in your own right, in your own lane, in your own city? And I feel like that goes across all the industries really where black creatives from outside of London are concerned. I feel like they will always feel that slightly marginalised, or only when they're appreciated in the London circuit do they feel like they start getting appreciation from back home as well. And I think that was, another focal point of this, the platform, building our own thing. It's us saying we know what's certified. I don't need someone down the road 150 miles away to tell me what I already know and what's certi. Do you know what I mean? Because the levels and the talent pool in Liverpool in itself is crazy. Even again across the borders, you've got black lads that are Premier League medal holders. Do you know what I mean? You've got black athletes that are Olympians. You've got, and that's not even just the black circuit in Liverpool. They're a musician. The talent pool is endless. But I almost feel, especially where the black community are concerned, unless you want to get your stripes, there's got to be a few people in London backing you and saying you're the shit. And I think that's one. Do you think we're getting any closer to changing that?
I feel like the more all we can do is just keep pushing against that narrative. Although it's it is true, but I feel like what we've got to do is do what you two are doing. You know what I mean? Which is to say, I'm not gonna wait for your approval. I'm not gonna wait for you to hand me the keys. Let me just go and make my own keys. Do you know what I mean? And until you have that ownership, what have you really got? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was thinking, and I think the lack of knowledge that we have about our own history, like, it shocked me when I found out that the first black mayor in London was in 1919, and he was a Scouser called John Archer. And like, if you didn't, when you find that out,
found that out right now.
but it's mad. It's like we don't know that. It's almost like we feel like Windrush happened and predominantly they went to London, and then we just trickled in somewhere in the.
But they didn't. I feel like, again, that's a part of the history or part of the story, and I feel like that is. I think even Liverpool is guilty of that. In the sense that we don't know our recent history enough to realise how much influence and how much power we should have.
Absolutely.
We were stripped of it by the powers that be because of how much influence we provoked across the board. So we don't have a recollection of that, or people of our generation don't have as much recollection as maybe your uncle's generation or our mum's generation do, because they was brought up in the thick of it all. And I'm talking, when you look back at like the 80s and stuff like that, or even just taking on the Windrush generation and stuff, predominantly a lot of them came into Liverpool. Liverpool as a community, you said before, it's one of the oldest black communities in Europe. As a community and as a people, there was a long time standing. Those London families had roots in Liverpool. They used to live up here. Your aunties and uncles from London, like lads of our age and girls of our age down south. Ask your parents, ask your families. They had cousins, uncles, aunties, sisters that lived in Liverpool, 60s, 70s and 80s. What changed was the fact that there was a lack of opportunity within Liverpool. So they then decided to become closer within their own community and move down to London. It was almost like a migrational thing where there aren't the opportunities in the north. So we'll go down south and we'll help build up the bus networks down there. We'll get into the hospitals down there. We'll get a better opportunity down in London and a fair crack of the whip. So a lot of them left, which has then left the community of Toxteth and Elliot and the communities around it kind of neglected as a result, basically, especially after the events of the Toxteth riots in the 80s, and then you've got the miner strikes, and then you've got the likes of Hillsborough. A lot of things in and around the northwest, opportunities, resources, thereafter just went tits up.
It's true.
Do you know what I mean? And it's quite deep, but I think until people genuinely sit there and take a little bit of time themselves to kind of look and realise the rich history of Liverpool and the influence we've had, and again, as I keep saying, it's more than just acting or film and TV and television. It's the music, it's the influence on the clothes, it's the influence on, even that social compass of society. Liverpool's pretty much a heartbeat of it still. Do you know what I mean? So it is, I think, I'm still very optimistic. And I think that's the only way to be. I think you've kind of got to be positive. We're all creatives. Everyone in this room here in some way, shape or form is a creative. And I think we have got a powerful voice. I feel just some of the feedback we get from this kind of stuff, what we've been doing over the last couple of months, people find it refreshing to hear you know, the man them talking on a level about certain things and just giving our perspective of it, because there was nowhere else to tune into it. There's only very few avenues where you'll hear black scouts' voices giving their developed thoughts and ideas on certain topics and stuff. So it is refreshing. What kind of direction are you looking to go for yourself? If you kind of envisioned it, you probably have those dreams day after day of how you see it going. So what is it for you? Where do you want your career to take you, bro?
I think, I know. I like I always use him as an example because I think he's an amazing actor. But Denzel Washington, the caliber of work that he has, like the absolute integrity in his acting, that's what I'd want my career to look like. Do you know what I mean? I'd want that trajectory. But more recently, just coming off the back of this conversation, I've definitely thought a lot more and actually been actively starting to write my own stuff. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
What kind of stuff then? What kind of, I don't want to say level, but what kind of tone is probably the more appropriate word for? What kind of tone of writing are you going for? Is it upbeat? You want to tell good stories, or is it going to be quite dark and gritty, or is it a mix in between the two?
At the moment, I'm in like a greedy phase, so I'm like everything. Do you know what I mean?
Sick,
until I find my voice through writing, it's almost like, right, I'm just taking everything. You know what I mean? Black, white, everything. Because I love Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? It's my city. You know what I mean? And I've grown up almost like in a quite a cosmopolitan way. Like, I've got a black mum. I didn't know my dad, but I have a white stepdad. Okay, you know what I mean?
I've got save you from here.
I've got a white step granddad. So like for me, it's about Liverpool, the city, and I think there are so many stories. I heard the story about Stephen French, and in the Toxteth riots, I think he was 19 or 18, and he said that in an interview, whether this is true or not actually doesn't matter, but he said in the interview that he looked around at the fire, all the fires blazing around him and bricks getting thrown, and he said he just let out this guttural animal demon scream. And I thought to myself,
that's the to the devil, dirty
but I thought to myself, there's got to be a story in there. There's got to be a story in there.
There's a lot of stories in the riots still. There definitely is a lot of stories in the riots. Again, I feel like that's probably an overlooked situation, really, and there's so many parallels to that time to today, where if that was to be rewritten or wrote in any particular way, you could watch it and look and think, is that 81 or is that 2019? Do you get me? Like, that's how deep it could potentially be. So you'd be definitely interested in writing and that kind of path.
I mean, like, off the riots, I'd love to do something about the riots with the tone of Peaky Blinders. Do you know what I mean? That real, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, because there's just so many untapped stories from Liverpool that deserve to have that story told. I found out the other day that there were like 18 nightclubs in L8.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've never grown up with
a nightclub in the ends.
I've never seen a nightclub in the ends, and I'm like, what has happened there? Do you know what I mean? There are so many stories that I just think deserve their day, their time in the sun.
Yeah, 100%. It's quite interesting you say that, to be fair. We'll have a chat off camera, but it's fully interesting you said it in the way that you said it, though. In that, I think it just shows, again, like, we're not unique. We've walked pretty much very similar. Do you know what I mean? We see the scene in the industry for Liverpool in a very similar way. So it's refreshing that everything that I've been through, and you've been there with me going to auditions back in the day, Waterloo Road times, going down to London for drama school auditions. You've, likewise, behind camera, you've been with me, I've been with you on your journey. So it is refreshing to see someone as talented as you are, with the passion, the drive now, and clearly a little bit of direction with it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really refreshing, bro, because I knew it was only a matter of time before there was going to be a Scouse black actor putting on for Liverpool. Do you get me? And there's easily 3 of us in the room at any time, could be it, but I've always knew it's coming. Do you know what I mean? It's great, it's good energy. I think that's the thing with us now. It has to come from us. I think, as you're saying there, we have to find ways where we can collaborate with the right people and get within the industry, but ultimately we can sit round them. They have trust in what the stories that we're going to bring to them, and we're going to deliver it. I think there's so much good stories that can come out of Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, trust is a big one. I was saying before, there was a poll taken in 2013 about accents, and what came out on top for the most trustworthy accent was RP, and what came out as the most untrustworthy accent was Scouse. And I think there is at least mad that innit.
Where was the poll taken?
I know innit, but I think what they send out nationwide polls to people who just who
live in London.
Yeah. the south. But the interesting thing is you can feel that. I don't know about in your respective fields, but for me, you can feel it with me. It's we want to tell your story, but we just don't trust you enough to tell it. We don't trust that you'd be able to have that capacity. I was in an audition, and the casting director said, "Oh, stop. Can you do it in RP, please?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah." And he was like, "Yes, because I think the character reads a lot, and he's very intelligent. So, so can we?" Yeah, he was like, "So can we bump your accent down south and bump up how many GCSEs he has?" And I was like, I was like, "Whoo! How do I react to that?" I just have to stay calm. And even the assistant guy looked at me and looked at him like.
Have you ever had any sort of racial
So I'll jump in. I don't know, a story that's sprung to mind, and it's actually one of the earlier instances of a racist incident that I was involved in. I don't actually think the drama school still exists anymore. It was a drama school that I went to at one point. I was young, maybe 4 or 5 at the time.
Yeah.
So from a child's perspective, I think I was one of the first lads to have joined. And then over the coming months, there was 3 other lads who joined with us, but I was better because I'd been there longer and well, I didn't know at the time I was better. I was the best. I was the better lad that was there. So this one week, they were talking of auditions. So I'm like, okay. Obviously, I'm thinking as a kid, I'm the best here. There's no something here coming for me. And the woman who owned the school come up and goes, "Right, we want you, and you, not you." Oh. I was a kid, I was wounded, I didn't think anything of it. So I went home, told my mum, and you know what my mum's straight on the phone. I'd like to ask, obviously she's told us, why is it on Marcel's not been? He's been there longer, and from what I can gather, he's one of the better lads. And she panicked on the phone and she says, we needed a fair-haired lad for the part. Now, me at 7, I had white blonde hair. It was I was only young actually, I got a cut when I was 7, so 5 or 6 I must have been. I had this white blonde hair. It couldn't have been no more. I was the only kid there with fair hair. So obviously that was the reply she got. And honestly, I don't want to misquote it, but she basically gave a reply along the lines of, "We won't be using anyone black." As blunt as that, and with that sentence, that was me out of school. My mum I never went back.
Well, this is why I stopped watching Midsummer Murders, bro. They came out with a genuine statement to say black people don't live in Midsummers. It's a fictional fucking place.
No.
It's literally somebody's imagination. And they've said, in my imagination, no black people live in here. I was and that used to be my programme when I was a kid, I used to like Midsummer Murders, man. You always used to get the guy. That. But after he came out with shit like that, I was like, nah, I can't watch that no more. I can't get behind it. I was asking then, have you ever felt any sort of discrimination or anything like that working within the profession?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just hearing that just literally made me think of one thing. I mean, professionally, since I've started acting professionally, I felt a lot more, not necessarily racism, but more what would you even call it? Because I'm from Liverpool. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
Still a form of discrimination.
Yeah. But when I was in a youth company here, in a theatre in Liverpool. I won't name it, but I'll say it's a prominent theatre in Liverpool. And the woman who ran it just never ever liked me. She'd always make little comments. And anyway, one day...
I feel like I know who this woman is,
I bet you do. We'll chat.
Yeah.
But there was
don't do it anymore. I'm going to shout it out.
No, one day, we went into the theatre and we went backstage, and there was like a little mini fridge full of cans of Coke. And I didn't drink Coke at the time because my mum just didn't let me. And she was like, she made a big point of no one got to take anything from the cabinets, from anything, you know what I mean? It's basically, it's theft, do you know what I mean? Because it's like property of the theatre, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the next day, I get called, I come in for like rehearsals, and I get called into the office. And she's like, you stole 2 cans of Coke, didn't you, Aaron? And I was like, no. And she was like, don't lie to me. She said, the cleaner has said that a person who looked exactly like you stole 2 cans of Coke. So at which point I think I was about 12 or 13. So I was getting upset because I'm like, I wasn't thinking you're being racist. I was thinking I'm not a thief. Do you know what I mean? That's what was going through my head. I'm not a thief. Why are you accusing me? And she had just the straightest face. It was almost like smug because I knew at this point she didn't like me. I just didn't know why. And she was like, yeah, I think you should go home. So anyway, I walk home. And then my mum sounds pretty similar to your mum. My mum was straight down there. Do you know what I mean? Straight down there. We had a meeting with her. She was all blustery, like, well, no, we didn't. It's just the cleaner said it. And
backtracking.
And then the guy, another guy who runs it, came and said, look, let's just end this right here. Not like, no, he didn't steal it. Let's just end this right here. You can stay in the youth theatre. And my mum was like, no, he's not coming back. And anyway, fast forward like 4 years later. I'm walking down Bold Street and this lad's coming up to me and he's smiling at me and I'm thinking, who's this lad? Why is he smiling at me, like, white guy? And he goes, oh, you're right, Aaron. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm thinking, who are you? Who is this? And he was like, yeah, God, I haven't seen you since the youth theatre. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, he's still there? And he was like, no, I left that time ago. And he was like, why did you leave? And I said, oh, I got accused of stealing 2 cans of Coke. And he was like, oh, that was me. I mean, this tiny, skinny white lad who, and I only describe him because to say like he looked nothing like me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's meant.
So you know that just took me right to that.
I remember this one occasion, and again, from my perspective, I don't think I've had anything internal with any professionals or people that I've worked with. You know, touch wood, I genuinely don't think I have. I feel like I've had positive discrimination in one sense, and it was. I got cast in my first ever pantomime when I was really young as well, and I got to play a dwarf. Now it was Snow White quite clearly, but when I watched Snow White on Disney, there was no black dwarfs in it, so I was absolutely buzzing. That man got to be cast in it, so I suppose that's one form of positive discrimination. But no, the one that I was going to say was I remember being on set with it's called Moving On. So I think again it's another Jimmy McGovern series that he films. It's a Liverpool. Obviously he's a Liverpool writer, but it's non-descriptive of where the stories are set, but a lot of it is done with LA productions in and around Liverpool. So I played a small role in that, again, over 10 years ago now. And we're filming in Anfield one day, and it was in the middle of January, and it was coming into a bad winter, and there'd been a bit of snow and ice, and we was filming on the streets, and we're part of this gang that is intimidating. One of the lads was in Shameless. I think he was the gay character in Shameless, and he was trying to get him into some sort of fight at the time. That was like part of where the story was going. And the next minute we're on the streets of Anfield doing this filming, and some car comes past up this really tight little terrace road and starts driving really slow. And obviously it's like wherever anyone can vouch, and this isn't a unique experience to me, anyone that does any sort of filming, as soon as you film outside in the general public, you will get the
People
general...
are like, what's going on
there? And keeping the horns, and you just get everyone just acting a goat when you're out and about on the street. But this car's wound its window down. Hey lads, what are you filming in there, lad? What's going on? So we're just like, it's for BBC, you know, trying to keep it polite. Move, take it, get out the way, like that. So they're just being dickheads, really. Like they're just winding everybody up on set. Yeah. But again, I'm young. I'm not phased. I'm putting on a hard face to think, I've got a whole team of people there. It's not really what could possibly happen. So this car's 4-man up. 2 men in the front, 2 men in the back. Oh, no. Now in the back there is this one kid, and I can only tell you this kid looks about 10 years of age, but this kid has got more balls than the other 3 men in the car, because the kid proceeds to wind down the window and go, hey there, you nigga. You know, when you're actually just like, I can't even cuss, because he's like 10 to 13 years of age, you know what I mean?
Bloody
But hell. I was just like, and then you get everyone like, on set being really wrapped
Like
up
the
in it.
bus stop thing, looking at you.
Yeah, just looking at you. What's your response going to be to that? And it is hard because, again, at that point, all of a sudden now you have to find another level of professionalism that other people don't have to be equipped with.
Yeah.
And I just found it was really funny because I'm sitting there looking at that situation, and the other guy, Tachia, he did Waterloo Road when he was a kid. He's a mixed race lad from Manchester. He's like, bro, is that like normal? Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like Manchester, even at that time, was probably a little bit more diverse than Liverpool and stuff. So he is a black northerner, but mixed race lad from. He just found it really bizarre that like these kids were just so happy to just roll up on us while we're filming, doing our job, working, trying to do positive things, and you was still going to get a view. So it is mad. It's a mad journey for anyone that is in the acting world in Liverpool. Where are the best resources to tap into, bro? Where in Liverpool is going to give you the best opportunity to get a foot in the acting game, just for anybody watching that aspires?
I know 20 Stories High do a lot of stuff.
Yes.
The Unity,
yes,
I think, do a lot of stuff. The Everyman are creating like a...
are they getting better?
Yeah, they're creating a... what's it called? Like a focus group. Do you know what I mean? To deal with, with all the Black Lives Matter marches, like everyone is now pledging all kinds of stuff. So that's their response. So
well, it'll be interesting to see what comes to fruition in that sense then, really. Because I think I think we've got to start putting the onus on some of our institutions in the city as well now. They've got to start, as you've been saying from the get-go, giving us that trust and giving us the ability and the reins to say, right, well, here's some stories. How do we sell them in the most authentic way, using the characters that can really bring these stories to life?
And how do we make it so that black people can come in and actually watch them? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And also not just black people, but white people from the area. How can we get these stories? What outreach are we doing? How are we making theatre accessible and not this kind of thing that feels like it's not attainable? Do you know what I mean?
Well, so I think this is probably one of the big ones to sort of wrap up with then. How it is, even though we've hit this COVID situation, do you feel, given the Black Lives Matter issues as well, they're coming out of it, there is going to be opportunities? Because I know there's a lot of apprehension for just creators in general. Again, Scousers as a whole, they take away the black lens for a couple of moments. Scousers as a whole, even those are we are underrepresented in media and television. Do you have confidence that post-COVID there will still be the opportunities for marginalised groups to get that input?
My optimistic head says I hope so. You know what I mean? Not even yes, just I hope so.
Yeah, okay.
My reality head says no.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And I say that only because not that I don't think people are going to take the onus like I want to write, and you know what I mean, and not that I think that the Black Lives Matter movements have sparked something in people. I think there probably will be opportunity for the people who already have an opportunity. And more specifically, I mean like that, we're going to see an influx of Black London plays and Black London films and Black London TV shows. And like, I'll give you an example, like ITV said yesterday or announced 2 days ago that they're creating 4 short films about Black Britain and the as a response of Black Lives Matter in the UK. And I checked. I literally sat there for an hour and Googled. Every single actor there was from London. And I was thinking, so what? How does that help? Do you know what I mean? How does that help the rest of the country? Forget Liverpool. How does that help the rest of the country? If you are literally saying, this is about the Black British experience, but only from this one city, every single film. Do you know what I mean?
It's mad, isn't it? And I think that's where I made my peace with it in that sense, and which is why for us and making that conscious decision, we're going to make our own shit from now on. Like fully, we're going to find a way. Whatever the starting block is, this is not the finished product. This is a part of our journey where we will tell various stories. And I think sometimes we're fortunate enough to bring you the here and now, and some people are that close to being a finished article. But I have been very excited to have the opportunity to sit down with you this evening to bring you one for the future, because I fully believe you in the lane that you're in will take us and the Liverpool scene to new heights when it comes to representing from a black Scouse voice.
Thank
So
you.
you know, it's a massive privilege to be able to sit down with you, get that bit of insight, because it's been years in all fairness, lad,
Yeah,
so
literally.
it has been years. So it's good to see the way that you've developed and you know how it's panned out for you. I think I'm optimistic for you. I still have optimism for the scene, but I'm not going to be overly dependent on it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it is about, from my perspective, our perspective, how can we create? And from your perspective, keep going with that same energy, man.
100%.
100%. Keep going with that same energy. MV, what have you got to say?
Well, Joe, I thought you were going to do then. I thought you were going to be like, Marcel, you can do the outro.
Well, that's what I'm hitting you up for, really.
Oh, me. So, yeah, today, Marcel hasn't said too much today, but you have had Marcel,
Errol, the group chat. Keep tuned.